Is it better if I get coffee to get half of the pumps of flavor or no pumps at all? This is a question that actually came in, and one that like very much hit near and dear to my heart because if you know anything about myself and my story, I was a mocha frappa crappa latte drinker twice a day, and it was always very confusing to me in my teaching career why I couldn't get back in my dress pants by the end of the day. I could literally not button them back together. I would put hair bands, like, little hair ties, and I would, now you know all about me, huh? Mike already knew that. But, we had that question come through, and I was like, okay, like, is it better in some instances to cut back, or is it better to cut out? So we're going to defer to Mike on this one. Enlighten us.
All right. Well, I think it's an awesome question too, because it actually reminds me of something that I was just recently writing about that some of you will actually be receiving this soon, which is this concept of CICO, CICO, which means calories in, calories out. And that is basically at the heart of the question that you're asking is should I, cut back on this or should I cut it out? And if you're following the calories in, calories out model, that means that you don't necessarily have to cut something out. You just have to cut back so that you're consuming fewer calories and thus put you in a more ideal state to burn fat. The challenge with this, and this is why I defer to the cut it out philosophy, is because, the whole calories in, calories out thing, we try to treat our bodies like they're a math equation. Or, we try to treat them as if it's a scale. And again, if I only eat less, then I'll lose more. And, in theory, it makes sense. And don't get me wrong, there is some degree of fat loss that is specifically tied to the calories that you're consuming. But I think that what everybody misses out when they ask this question is, what's at the root cause of you wanting to consume more calories. Yes. Right. And that is your environment. And by environment, I'm talking about your hormonal health and balance, talking about your sleep, your water. What are some other lifestyle type things that would play
Stress.
Into your environment? Your stress. That's a huge one. Work, maybe your choice of exercise. Right. So all of these things, which we tend to view as like, it's not that big of a deal, or like, I only need to focus in on the calories. And if I do that, then I'll lose the fat. Like, yeah, it's true. You're going to lose some weight, but because you didn't address the environmental issues, your body and all the other things, what happens to the weight? What happens to the weight, Corey Beth?
Doesn't go away.
At least not permanently.
Yeah.
At least not permanently.
True.
It always comes back.
Yeah.
And, when you take the thermostat analogy, it makes perfect sense. What happens if you were in a room where the temperature was constantly in flux? Like, how well is that thermostat going to work?
Well, how well are you going to feel being in there? It
Yeah.
gets hot, it gets cold, it gets hot, it gets cold. Really, right?
Yeah, but I'm talking about like your body. Your body is the thermostat.
Correct.
It has to adjust to the environment. So
it's a lot of work.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. It's a lot of work.
I followed him.
And so it is a lot of work. And the thing is that if you can get the environment under control, then the thermostat doesn't have to work as hard. Or you don't have to switch gears altogether and start acting like, hey, I got to take the scale approach.
Very good. It's very, very good. I think the other thing that I really wanted to point out here is, cutting back versus cutting out. I think the underlying question also when it comes specifically to food is, does this impact my blood sugar? And, for me, drinking, where's my coffee? This still is amazing to me, right? Like, this is coffee and cream. That's it. I don't add sugar anymore to my lattes. I used to add a couple packs. I do not have pumps of flavor in anymore. And for me personally, it was a major digestive issue where I get really bloated. So again, think, do I get bloated after I have artificial flavoring? And if you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she just said that. Yes, that's when I get bloated. There's your answer. Don't cut back, cut it out. And it was hard to go from an extra caramel macchiato or an extra white mocha frappuccino. So if you go to Starbucks, you know what I'm talking about. Or we can just go with the vanilla bean colada that I used to drink from Dunkin' Donuts. And again, they're all registered trademarks of the current companies that I said, and I'm not bashing them in any way, shape, or form, but I used to drink and eat all of that stuff. And it made me feel so miserable that I didn't sleep well and I didn't feel good and I didn't have confidence. And it jacked up my hormones in such a way that we finally got to the point where it was like, okay, cut back or just cut that stuff out. I cut that stuff out and still am able to have some of the other things. But again, I think going back to the whole point of that thermostat issue that you really brought up, it is really important to see like, okay, I'm going to have the pumps of flavor and you may not see it on the scale the next day, but it's like 2 days later, all of a sudden you're like, gosh, like how come my weight isn't like dropping anymore? It's not going to happen instantaneously. It's going to happen over time. So I think the first rule of thumb is anything that messes with your blood sugar, it's got to go. It's just got to go, and then the other things that maybe are vices, or maybe you're working on your sleep, like start to put those pieces together. And as those pieces start to fall into place, it's almost like a path, right? That's when your body, the thermostat begins to react in a right way, or you eventually end up where you want to end up, which is lost fat, increased leanness or muscle or tone, right? Whatever you want to call it. It's putting those pieces together and not expecting it's going to happen instantaneously. So what I don't want you to take from here is, okay, I didn't get my 2 pumps of, caramel flavor in my coffee today. And like tomorrow morning, you're like, the scale didn't move. Corey, Beth, and Mike were wrong. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that stuff has to happen over time. And they're all pieces of the puzzle.
You're usually the one who brings a ray of hope into every situation. But can I be the one to bring a ray of hope right now to everybody out there?
You've been on this trend all week. Yeah. Go for it.
I'm going to bring a ray of hope to you all because I think that what a lot of people are probably hearing from us right now, like, oh my gosh, they're telling me that I got to get rid of this, right? I can't ever have this. And that's not what we're saying. Let's go back to the environment. As Corey Beth pointed out, having that stuff, what did it do? It disrupted her internal environment. Couldn't sleep well, fluctuations in blood glucose and insulin. That disrupts your hormones, throws your body out of whack. But here's the thing. I know today that she is operating out of a place where she is in proper hormonal balance, gets really good sleep, makes really good lifestyle choices. Now, if she decided today that she wanted to go out and have that Frappuccino, would it completely throw off her entire environment? No, because she's operating out of a space where her environment is in balance. So the thing is, if you could get your body into balance, then having those things occasionally will not throw you out of balance. But if you can't break the trend right now, if you can't make the cut, sever that tie at this moment, then that may be telling you something about your internal environment. And so, yeah, it is important in terms of long-term outlook, right? We don't want just short-term results. Anybody can go and lose a few pounds over a few weeks, but how many people can actually keep it off? And that's where we're really driving at with this, is that it's not cut it out forever, but you got to cut it out now to get yourself into that proper place. And then later, should you decide that you want to have it again, chances are you're going to have it and actually not enjoy it, believe it or not. But at least you're in a place where you can have it and at least not feel as though this is going to blow it all. Yeah. I'm going to gain all my weight back. I'm going to feel like you might feel like crap after having, but like, it's not going to destroy your results.
Yes. Well, I think the analogy maybe we should have started with is if you want to get your home into proper temperature with your thermostat. So whatever season we want to pick, let's just pick that it's winter outside and you want your home to be perfectly at 70 degrees. Okay. And you get your home there, opening a window, which is like having that coffee drink, opening a window and then closing that window is not going to make a big difference. But when all of your windows are open, your sleep is garbage, you're not exercising, you're eating crap, right? All the windows are open. Your house is going to have a really hard time maintaining that 70-degree temperature. Does that make a better analogy?
I think it's wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, I yell at the kids all the time. I'm like, shut the front door, but that momentary open and close, it doesn't affect every room in the house. It may make the front of the house feel a little bit chilly, where I'm like, shut the door. But that small choice is not going to destroy the entire house. Whereas if you're making all the wrong choices, nothing that's good for you or in alignment with your goals, then yeah, your house is never going to reach 70 degrees, AKA you will never reach your goal weight.
All right. Well, I think that sums it up. I think you could just, the take home message is get your environment right. Stop worrying about the calories and all those other little things that might give you that short-term, boost that you want to see, maybe, or a short-term loss on the scale, but rather focus on the environment, get your environment right. And when you do that, everything else will fall into place.
Well said.
See
Have a
you
great
guys
one,
later.
guys.